So, from slightly offensive Christian conservatives battle pro LGBT Republicans, let us jump right in. And we're starting off at 5 minutes to hear from Lauren Witzke, who ran for Senate or Congress. Anyway, she'll tell us.
Of libertarians, the
Oh, that's fucking
disaffected
loud.
left, conservatives, etc. Like with the questions, we'll try to go in the same order. We'll start with Lauren.
Yeah, so,
Oh, and they are here to talk about the future of the right wing.
I'm really confused why this is a discussion about the future of the right when we have a liberal, actually she's a Democrat, with one good opinion. We also have a transgender on here. I don't really think we should be giving a platform to this kind of degeneracy, which is a gateway drug to pedophilia. I absolutely disagree.
Oh, that didn't take long. Damn. Now, I'll remind you, they're here to talk about the future of the right, and she's already alienating half of the panel. Good tactic for winning elections, right?
Agree. We were the party of traditional marriage. We were the party that opposed gay marriage. We've always been that party. We've always been the party of family. We won handedly in 2016 without the LGBTQ vote. We started losing when we started compromising. So I'm really curious why people who are libertarians, you have a party of freaks who love the free market that you can join, but don't come into our party and try to influence it, because that is how we are losing. And in case you haven't noticed, we are losing.
I love it. Oh, let's let her finish up before I comment.
They are now advocating for chemical castrations for children. We're spotlighting transgenderism at CPAC. And I am a traditional Christian conservative. I believe in family. I believe that family is the foundation of everything that this country was founded on. And no, I do not believe that we should be compromising our values and spotlighting a lifestyle that is a gateway drug to pedophilia every single time. And you cannot deny it isn't, because it's here.
Blair.
Wow, alright, and here we get to the second conservative mindset I wanted to focus on today. Here is the fanatic, the true believer, someone who is so consumed by their ideology that they have no interest in, they've completely abandoned any idea of comparing conservatism to liberalism. Well and truly, this is the conservative mindset. Well, this is the conservative. We're looking at conservative mindsets, but this is the conservative. So, several things to unpack. It was very interesting, her attack on the Libertarian Party. America has its own, one of the larger third parties in America is the Libertarian Party. Her attack on the Libertarian Party was very interesting. Freaks obsessed with the free market. So it's interesting that we have the conservatives being very open about being anti-libertarian. It's very interesting, as the party and the side of politics who always likes to say that the left is the real racists and we don't see colour, very openly being anti-libertarian. And like I said earlier, already alienating half the panel, already saying, no, we're not interested in your support. We don't want you in our politics, which is a brilliant way to win elections. You have people that are willing to support you. Brilliant. And I'll remind you that she ran for Congress. This isn't like some crazy, media figure. She's a politician. Well, failed politician. And then last of all, of course, just complete disregard for science, just complete disregard for civil rights. Fuck gay people, fuck trans people. Just completely unegalitarian, unlibertarian, or anti-libertarian. Not interested in equal rights for everyone. Love it. And we're going to be seeing a lot more of that. It is a bit of a hot take. But hey, there's going to be more. And let me see. Like I said, we're not watching the whole thing. We're looking at some excerpts. That's the first bit to jump us right in. Blair White, of course, runs damage control for what Lauren just said. Oh, okay. I should probably take this opportunity to introduce the panel because I'm not letting them introduce themselves. So Karen Boloshenko is as Lauren just pointed out, a liberal who votes Republican. She came to Spotlight after PragerU again. Put out a video of her saying basically she left the left. She was never left, she was liberal, because people were mean to her about Trump on a knitting forum, and then she went to a Trump rally and everyone was nice, and so she voted Republican. Blair White, of course, is the ultimate pick-me girl, a conservative transgender woman who, for whatever reason, has chosen to cast her lot with the right, despite the fact that people like Lauren talk about her as such. John Doyle is he's really young. He's like 21. YouTuber who postures as like an America First, like American exceptionalism kind of content creator. But as we'll see, he is fairly in agreement with Lauren. Anyway, and then Carlin's going to tell us why Lauren's strategy is fucking dumb.
Give us your thoughts.
Good. I did. Well, the fact of the matter is that MAGA is not a religious movement. MAGA is a political movement. And in order to win elections, you have to win votes. The fact of the matter is that Donald Trump has never cared about gay marriage. It was never something that he was against. Dude hung out at Studio 54. Why would he care? And so I am on the side of winning too, Lauren. I'm on the side of winning elections. The fact of the matter is that Donald Trump created a Big Tent strategy that brought 10 million more people to him in 2020 than he did in 2016. And if we go back and look at the history of the Republican Party and when they lost the culture war the first time, Ronald Reagan offered a big tent. He said, everyone is welcome in this big tent. He won 2 terms. George H.W. Bush followed him. The Republicans were in control for 12 years until what happened? The moral majorities tried to swoop right in and started legislating Christianity. And that is when they lost the culture war. That is when they started losing voters, when they started trying to legislate their religion the first time around. The First Amendment says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of a religion or prohibiting the free exercise of thereof. So it protects your right to practice your religion as much as it protects my right to practice mine. This is not a question of religion. If you want to do whatever you want to do in church, that's fine. Go talk to your church elders, go talk to your deacons, exclude anyone you want from your church. But the fact of the matter is that I would really like if the Democrats didn't control everything. And in order for that to happen, we need to win. And that means building the broadest possible coalition of voters that we can. And that's what I think we should do.
Now, we're also going to be taking a look at Carlin a little bit later. Because her position, I find very interesting. It's very interesting that she is a Republican voter, but she's very, primarily focused on freedom of speech. She has got it in her head that the conservatives are the ones who are concerned about freedom of speech. Interesting, which, as I just said a bit earlier, it was Donald Trump who wanted to send people to jail for a year for burning the American flag. But anyway, we'll discuss that a bit further later on, because we're going to revisit her in this video. But I just want to open up that to show how her primary concern is freedom, basically. Freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of religion. That's what she's here about. Carlin already has the much more libertarian take. Wait, this name. Were you the one who dunked on Infrared a while ago? Lord Red Brick. Why, thank you. I wouldn't see it so much as a dunk. It was more like, look, my performance was not that strong, all right? But hey, I did the best I could with what I got. Yes, I did talk to Infrared a while back, if you can call it talking. Basically, I called into his channel to define fascism because he wanted a definition. It was just after he'd been on Vosh's stream. And he wasn't satisfied with my definition. Again, I'll give my definition of fascism right now because it's pertinent to this debate. Fascism is an ultra-right-wing, ultra-nationalistic ideology with a strong centralized government, centralized economy, central control of the military and the secret police that endeavors to create, perpetuate, and protect unjust hierarchies in whatever form that may come. That can be a hierarchy based on gender, based on race, based on class, based on political association, whatever, doesn't matter. Fascism involves hierarchy, unjust hierarchy, undemocratic hierarchy, an egalitarian hierarchy. So yeah, Infrared wasn't happy with that definition, because by that definition, the USSR and China would be fascist. And it's almost as if they are. So thanks. That was a fun raid, and you going on voice chat made it better. Well, hey. If you're interested, he did upload it to his channel. Don't know why, because he just looks insane. The video is called something like, "This is why definitions are stupid." Basically, it's an hour and 20 minutes of him gaslighting me and obfuscating the definition, because if he acknowledged it, he'd either have to lie about the definition. Oh. We heard the sound, but we did. Hey, there we go. Ret Brick, sorry, not Red Brick. Cheers for the follow. Welcome. Yeah, if he acknowledged the definition, he'd either have to lie and say that, well, no, that's not what fascism is, or he'd have to acknowledge that China and Russia are fascist. Anyway, back to the real-life fascists. Well, they're all real life, but hey, back to the fascists at hand.
Lauren, that's pretty much opposite of what...
Now, let me see. I've got timestamps. But I think let's keep going for now.
You brought up and what you were saying. Could you please respond to that?
Yeah, so, Donald Trump, he did do things that made the church have to make excuses for him. His Globo Homo initiative.
Globo Homo.
Ended up losing him a significant amount of the Christian vote, and we are the base of this party. We make up a huge portion of this party, a way bigger portion than the libertarian sector of the party, no matter how much they want to tell you. So him making those compromises.
Oh, and by the way, I'll have to apologize now for the audio. Fucking Boomer Karen over here doesn't have a mic, doesn't have headphones, and is just blasting her audio out and ruining the recording. So sorry for that. Everyone else, could at least plug in some headphones. Unfortunately, Boomer over here did not. Tanky's a fascist who idolized China, so fair enough. Absolutely. Like, fuck me. Like, Tanky, these are just red fascists. There's no difference in the ideology of Nazi Germany and the USSR. Everything else is semantics. Fundamentally, it is authoritarian, centralized control with unjust hierarchy. Anyway.
Is probably a big part of why we lost. We lost the House in 2018. In 2017 we had the House, the executive branch, and the Senate, God. And we still failed on conservative issues. They refused to stand up for life. They still passed a budget that actually made us forced Christian taxpayers to fund Planned Parenthood. So every vote lost on social conservatism is, we are significantly more. We are the party that was established in traditional marriage. So I'm curious when the liberals and the transgenders decided that it was their duty to come and infiltrate our party to make it successful, because we were doing just fine.
All right. couple.
Started actually losing votes when we started pandering. We lost a significant amount of our base, enough to make an effect and make a dent into the electorate by compromising our values. The only way forward is to stay true to our values that we've always been and established on and win with them. You know, it's the weakness. People value strength over anything else. And when we started showing weakness and compromise, that's when we started losing. And I don't think that is something that we should continue. I think that we should remain the party of Jesus Christ, the party of life, the party that celebrates family and makes it as easy as possible for Americans to get married and have children. Why would I celebrate a lifestyle that people can't reproduce? You know, you can't reproduce. You just can't. You know, so having families, that is the future of the party. We started losing when we started compromising. Big Tent is a lie.
Lauren, let me jump in there real fast and give Blair a chance to respond.
All right. So a couple of things. Again, complete she wants to lose. You have people here who disagree with your ideology, but they still want to support the same party, and you're refusing to accept their support. This woman wants to lose. Like we heard from Carlin earlier, Carlin's message was very much one focused on victory. Like, forget about the First Amendment stuff. She's very much like Carlin, this woman here, very much was advocating for winning, really. We need to have a big tent movement that includes everyone who's interested in supporting the right, and that's how we win. But Lauren over here is determined to lose. And as well, this focus on it's the Christian party, it's the family values party. Well, it's funny how conservatives are determined to either shoot down any policy that's interested in making families better, and also how basically just every conservative position is an anti-life, anti-liberty one. Anyway, we have not... Here we go. We have not yet heard from John Doyle down the bottom right, so let's jump ahead and hear what he has got to say. Also, earlier in the introduction, when they were introducing themselves, he basically said the same thing as Lauren. We don't want a big tent. We need to be the party of Christian conservative values. But this little bit here of what he's got to say is very interesting.
Really conservative policies. And so that's where the momentum in the party is. And so if you're going to come over and vote for Republicans because you agree with their positions on foreign policy or fiscal policy or what have you, that's all and fine. But what we can't do is start to compromise and say that, like, you can come over here and we're actually going to pander to you as well and give you positions at CPAC. And I think it's interesting because a lot of people that are trying to join the Republican Party or the conservative movement and then bring to light more of these like LGBT issues are basically showing their hand in that they're not actually conservative. And I'm not speaking about you guys specifically, just like the rhetoric that I deal with online, because fundamentally the idea of like LGBT issues is about the enshrinement of total equality, which is fundamentally not a conservative idea. Conservatives believe in hierarchy and natural law, and the idea.
Hear that? Equality is not a conservative idea. And he's right. You have people who are conservative mindset, who are part of the LGBT community, who want to say, hey, like for instance, I'm nationalistically focused, I'm conservative fiscally, but I also want our party to address LGBT issues. No, he's not interested. That's a left-wing ideal. Equality is a left-wing ideal, and hierarchy is a right-wing ideal. He's very openly advocating for more rights for some and less rights for others. This is the conservative mindset. Or one of, because we're here to explore several. This is truly what conservatism is about. Authority and hierarchy. And I'm really sick of conservatives pretending otherwise.
Idea that we can have total equality across the board for different types of relationships or different types of marriages, quote unquote, is just fundamentally not a conservative idea. And so
there you go. He said it. See, the thing, this is the difference between the left and the right. I don't need to attack an imagined straw man like PragerU. I can point right here to people on the right who are saying this shit, who are very openly and blatantly advocating for unequal rights.
if we want to have success in the future as a party, we have to actually like maintain a strong footing on what it actually means to be conservative, which we haven't done in the last 70 years, I'd say.
Yeah, so I'm gonna
And according to John, being conservative is advocating for unequal rights. Cool, very cool, very nice. We're going to hear from Carlin again. Because, like, I'm not going to... Like, I want to focus on what she's saying, but I'm going to, like, unpack that later on. Because I find her mindset really interesting. But we'll get to her in a sec. Let's hear what she's got to say about the First Amendment.
Quite hilarious sometimes. But with that being said, you know, if we're going to take the big tent party approach, right, and we're going to bring in all of these people that are of different viewpoints like yourself, what is this conservative party conserving, and how is it any different than, let's just say, being a liberal party from 10 years ago?
Well, right now, it's not conserving anything because they don't have any power because they lost elections. But I do want to speak to John's point specifically in that he used the magic word, which is pandering. The left panders to the LGBT movement. Trump did advocate for LGBT policies. He did so by appointing the first openly gay member of the cabinet, which the left likes to forget about all the time. He did support this community.
Why would we care? Like, the right accuses the left of playing identity politics, but the right is the only one that plays identity politics, and liberals, I suppose. The left doesn't care about your first openly gay cabinet member because he's still a conservative. We're concerned about his politics, not his identity. Wow, could it be that the right's been hypocritical and playing identity politics? Gosh, who'd have thought? You could have appointed a gay, transgender, disabled, otherkin, immigrant, black, neurodiverse cabinet member, and it still wouldn't matter. It still wouldn't matter because he's a conservative. I don't care about his identity. I care about his politics. If he's out here advocating for dumb shit, that's what I'm going to be concerned about.
Community, he just didn't do it in a way that was pandering. But again, like I'm a liberal because I believe in individual liberty, individual freedom. I'm very concerned with preserving specifically our First Amendment values and all of the amendments specifically, but the First Amendment's really my jam, which again does not allow for the state to legislate based on one religion's specific values. But if we want to talk about religion, we can talk about a verse from the Bible, which is 1 Timothy 2, verses 1 through 2, which says, I urge then, first of all, the petitions, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be made for all people, for kings and for those in authority, that we may live peaceful and quiet lives in all godliness and holiness. And I bring that up because that is the only place in the New Testament that really touches on the relationship of Christians to government. And what does it say? It says they should pray for the people in leadership so that they may live peaceful and quiet lives in godliness and holiness. So what does that mean? It means...
Anyway, forget about the religious crap. What's more interesting is her intent focus on the First Amendment. This is the thing about Carlin, which I'll address in more detail later on. But she has got it in her head that conservatives are the ones out here defending freedom of speech. Now look, this is a bit of a hot take, which some people might disagree with. Being banned from Twitter is not an infringement upon your First Amendment right. I'm sorry, but companies have terms of service, and if you break those terms of service, then platforms like Twitter are well within their rights to ban you from their website. There's a world of difference between a company refusing to serve you, no different from walking to a cafe and being a dickhead and then saying that we're not going to serve you. There's a world of difference between a company refusing to serve you and the government infringing upon your freedom of speech. Now, is there some liberals who are out there with an anti-speech agenda? Probably. But in terms of freedom of speech, again, it's not the left who's trying to impede upon people's freedom of speech. It's not the left who tried to change the law, saying that you should go to jail for a year for burning the American flag. So some people, some wayward souls like Carolyn, have got it in their head that conservatives conserve, so they are intent on conserving the First Amendment. Right? Well, as we've heard from Lauren and John Doyle, as we've heard from Lauren and John, that's not the case, and will continue not to be so. Alright, let's skip ahead a bit and hear from John again.
Of laughing during that, and so why are you laughing?
I was humored by the biblical substantiation for having more gay people in government. I just thought that was kind of funny. But no, I don't think that, like, even you push back on what I had said about the pandering with, well, Trump appointed these people and he appointed these people, so he was actually, like, serving the interests of the community. It's interesting because, as you noted, the left will still ignore that because they control the narratives and they control the media. And so really, no matter what Trump does to pander to that.
That's cool. Key element of fascism, making the media the enemy of the people. Very cool, John.
However many percent of the, 3% of the voting demographic isn't actually going to serve interests. And I just don't think that the reason Trump didn't win in 2020, assuming the election was totally legitimate, was because he didn't serve the interests of the LGBT community enough. I mean, Trump won in 2016 because of immigration, because of free trade, and because of foreign policy. It wasn't at all because of...
primarily immigration, let's be honest.
Social issues as it pertains to, like, the interests of gays and transgenders or what have you. And then as far as the biblical substantiation for it, I mean, it's outlined obviously not only in the Old Testament, but in the New Testament, like, very clearly that sexual immorality, which under the umbrella would be homosexuality, is wrong. But you seem to be alluding to this idea of, like, the individual in their private home and things like that when you talk about, people living in a free society to do what they want and not, causing any problems. But what's interesting about that is that was the argument that during the movements in the 1960s and 70s, including the sexual revolution, that allowed a lot of this stuff to have a seat at the table, which ultimately would usurp power away from traditional Americans and traditional social conservatives. And I just think that that's basically a myth, because there's really no such thing as a private individual in the privacy of their own home, because you are one person. And so any act...
I love it. I love how masked off they're being. You hear that? This conservative tells you you've got no privacy in your own home. Fuck me. I'm a libertarian. I believe in individual liberty. What consenting adults do in the privacy of their own home is no business of mine. But guess what? Conservatives were never about liberty. They were never about libertarianism. They were always about authoritarianism. And we're seeing it on point right here with John Doyle and Lauren. Very mask off, very anti-liberty. And I love this vindication, because we can see exactly what these people are all about. Whoa, what's going on? Okay. Shut the fuck up, you Oxford cuck. What the hell? Is this a infrared fan? I mean, they got bad apples on both sides. That's real generous. The media is the enemy of the people. Ugh! Fascist rhetoric 101. I mean, mainstream media is pretty dodgy as of late. Well, here's the thing. Like, media is privately owned, so sure, media has an agenda, but media should always be there to hold politicians accountable. The media should always be there as a check for politicians. We need the media to be there to keep our politicians in line. We need a diverse media. We need left-wing media, we need liberal media, we need conservative media, we need far-right media. We need media of all stripes. But we need unbiased media, objective media. I'm very much in favour for he just said it's fascist to criticise the media. Oh my god, no! making the media out to be the enemy of the people is fascistic. It's fine to criticize the media because, yes, media has bias. And that, like, it's the media's job to criticize politics. It's our job, the public's job, to criticize the media. But when politicians make out that they're on the side of the people and in opposition is the media, yes, that's fascistic. All fascist regimes have done that. All far-right authoritarian regimes have done that. So yes, if you're criticizing the media just for the sake of it, then yeah, that's fascistic. But if you're criticizing the media saying like, hey, you have an agenda and you're ignoring facts, that's reasoned criticism. Anyway, but anyway, getting back to John, yeah, like, I love that. Very mask off, just very much like, nah, you don't have any privacy in your own home. There's no such thing as private individual. The government's going to come in and stick their nose in your business. Well, my friend, I'm a libertarian. I believe in personal freedom. I believe in individual liberty. It's none of the government's business what I do in my home between myself and other consenting adults. In fact, it's not even the government's business what I do in public between consenting adults that does not infringe upon the freedoms and rights of other people. It's no one's business. However, conservatives like John and Lauren are very openly advocating for an authoritarian position because that is what is at the heart of conservatism, authoritarianism. Which is why I'm focusing so much on Carolyn, because sure, she voted for Trump, but as she said, she's a liberal because she believes in individual freedom. So she's not, like, sure, she votes Republican, but she's not really a conservative. Because this is the thing. As John has said earlier, true equality, personal freedom, is not a conservative value.
The nitty-gritty about what it says in that area, I want to focus on the fact that, again, this is an argument for the First Amendment, for religion to not be the dictator of a political movement. If you want to talk about these issues in your church, do talk about them in your church. If you want to exclude people from your church, fine. If you want to exclude gays from getting married in your church, that is a conversation between you and your church elders. This is a conversation about a political movement.
I think that all the arguments against the acceptance of homosexuality within the right are completely secular. It may just so happen to appeal to the base of that movement as Christians, but I think that Lauren and I could recite several arguments that are maybe even more compelling from a completely secular perspective.
Let me.
And I hope you'll do it in church.
Let me jump in
And
there.
There we go. Again, her concern is freedom of speech and liberty. Have you ever had a cease and desist letter from Louis Vuitton? No, I haven't. Well, there's also Louis Boutons that are the shoes, but hey. If anything, they should be giving me... I should be being sponsored by Louis Vuitton. Let's see. Anyway, so Carlin, again, very much focused on the First Amendment, very much focused on not having religion dictate politics. But as Lauren and John have pointed out, they are all about having religion dictate laws, dictate politics. Yeah. Again, I just want to remind everyone that the conservative mindset we're focusing in this segment is the fanatic. And John and Lauren are certainly fanatical in their advocacy. Now, let's skip ahead by about 10 or so minutes. Oh, and this is probably my favorite part. Oh, where is it? What's the timestamp? Here we go. Everything that we've heard up until this point doesn't come close to this. Louis is an anti-free speech clown. Free speech for me, but not for thee. Hey, David. You want to come on and talk about it? There's a link to the Discord in the description. Huh? You gonna talk shit in the chat? Or are you gonna put your money where your mouth is? Come on. Join the Discord. There's a channel in the Discord called Thunderdome. Get in. Because funny, I'm the one who's out here advocating for freedom of the media, and you're calling me anti-free speech? Interesting. Well, come on. Get in. Blood. The people want blood. You've been talking shit in chat? Make me. Alright. Sure. Watch. Boom. Pathetic. Pathetic. When conservatives send their... Well, actually, I don't think he's even a conservative. I think he's a tanky. Because he was talking about infrared before. Damn. When fascists send their people, they don't send their best. Pathetic. Weak. Mediocre, David. Let's get to the fun part.
Said if you are a gunslinging, freedom-loving person, absolutely, we'd love to have you come vote for us. But should you be having a say in influencing the party? Should you have an opinion that, you know, like Jared Kushner was the one who did push the LGBTQ agenda, mass migration. And those were the things that, you know, mass migration was something that Trump addressed in 2016. That's what got the white working class out to vote for him. You know, so there are plenty of votes out there for us to get, but
she's saying the quiet part out loud. She's saying the quiet part out loud. Oh no 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 no. Hey, look, kangaroo steak. If people are just going to talk shit and not man up and actually show that they've got some stones, I got no problem. If you're going to talk shit in chat, you got to have the stones to back it up. Oh, Lauren. My goodness, the mask is slipping.
it doesn't come with compromising. We don't get those 15 million unregistered Christian voters to get them registered to vote now.
Christian voters or white voters? White Christian voters.
Out to vote for us by glorifying the LGBT community.
Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. I don't know why Lauren's so against the First Amendment. I think the First Amendment's pretty great. I also think the Second Amendment's pretty great too, because it protects the First. And these are the things that we should actually be conserving, and we can't do that if we can't win elections. The fact of the matter is...
Wow, what a reasoned perspective. It's a goddamn shame that she thinks conservatives are out here trying to protect the First, well, certainly the Second Amendment. But hey, damn shame that she thinks the conservatives are out here trying to protect the First Amendment. It's pathetic. Carlin, can't you see that these people are not interested in protecting the First Amendment? These people are not pro-free speech. These people are not pro-freedom of religion. These people have a specific agenda for society and the country, and if you don't meet those requirements, then you will not be afforded the same rights as them. It's pathetic. Because I hear all the time how conservatives are the ones that are champions of free speech, how it's the left who are the real racists. And here we have, case in point, of conservatives. Mask off. Anti-libertarian, pro-authoritarian. It is pathetic. Seriously though, Lauren saying the quiet part out loud. And in fact, let's shit on her a little bit more. Actually, hang on, wait. Oh no. Oh, okay. We can't miss the best bit. Okay. We can't miss the infighting. Fuck. I didn't take that down for a timestamp. Damn it.
Actually married with the family. And so I will want to conserve is by
Okay.
30 years ago when they tried to
So
LGBT
she's just
movement
talking about
right
the First
now,
Amendment.
from giving hormones to kids, medical transition, whatever. This was all caused by the right losing the culture war 30 years ago when they tried to legislate their religion. That is why we're currently experiencing this today. The only way to come back and conserve whatever it is you want to conserve is by winning elections. And the fact of the matter is, it's not just people like Blair who vote based on LGBT issues. I am straight as an arrow. I'm married to a dude. Between the two of us, I'm the one that's actually married with the family. And so I will say that I absolutely will
Ooh.
not vote for a party that treats
Oh,
LGBT
shit.
people like they are subhuman. I won't do it. Part of the reason that Trump won my vote is because he does not care. He promotes people. He doesn't promote sexualities.
Okay, so first of all, you're using issues again on me that you don't apply for yourself. So Dr. Carl here was the first one to celebrate me being banned from Twitter. She was so excited to see that my voice had been silenced. So freedom of speech for thee, but not for me.
Again, being banned from Twitter is not an infringement on your freedom of speech. You can just go ahead and create a new Twitter account. Freedom of speech is when the government and its institutions attack your speech.
Absolutely.
Just
So,
conservative victim complex.
disregard that opinion.
Well, I
Also,
celebrated that you were banned on Twitter because you repeatedly tweeted that my husband should be deported, Lauren. And
He's
now
an
I'm
illegal alien.
thrilled. No, he's
Your
not.
husband-
He has a
your
permanent green
husband-
card. I am
It's
now
from-
thrilled that I don't have to hear you call for my husband to be deported on Twitter, who has had a permanent green card for the last 6 years.
He came into our country illegally. He broke our laws. He did
And
not
then
do it
married
correctly.
an American. How
And
lucky
he
is
has
he?
to go back. He has to go back. I'm sorry,
No, he
Dr.
doesn't,
Carl.
honey. That's not how laws work. It's not how laws work. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I have a husband and you don't, Lauren. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Aw.
Damn! Oh, you know she's a liberal because she burns like one. And look, ooh. The face of cope. It's hilarious that this advocate, for family values, doesn't actually have a family. Interesting. And is going to be out there attacking Carlin's family, trying to break up that family. But yeah, advocate for family values. Let's see, can she recover? Oh, look at her face.
You're welcome.
Anyone want to respond? You guys
She's
can keep going.
coping. Oh,
Keep going.
smile through the
Blair's
pain.
Oh, you want me to keep going? Oh, well, I'm in early recovery. So, I've only been clean 3 years.
And that's what I want to talk about. It is hilarious that Lauren is out here impeaching people for degeneracy when she is an addict in recovery. Now, I am not here to attack addicts. Recovery is a journey, but it is utterly hilarious and hypocritical that she would impeach people for so-called degeneracy when she is exactly the kind of person that she would call a degenerate. Now, for the record, addicts are not degenerates. That's not what I'm saying at all. But that is exactly the kind of thing that she would say. And she wants to stand here and call people degenerates when she is exactly the kind of person she would call an addict a degenerate. Such a hypocrite. Ridiculous. Alright, let's skip ahead a little bit. Whoa! Alright, hang on. Where on the conservative personality spectrum is the reasonable pragmatist who believes there are some values, morals, and lessons from the past that we should remember and teach to future generations? Nowhere! None. There isn't one. This is the thing. The conservative mindset we're looking at in this point is the fanatic. People like Lauren and John Doyle. There is no one. There is no pragmatic conservative. They don't exist. Exactly. I think that would be a centrist. In other words, a liberal. Liberals are the ones who, fall on either side. Liberals are the ones that advocate for individual rights, but advocate for some things like, say, for instance, free market. You know, conservatives don't. Liberals are the one. Like, look, unironically, liberals are more pro-free market than conservatives. Conservatives are the ones that want government control of the market. Conservatives are the ones that want a centralized economy. It is, centrist is not liberal. A centrist is someone who agrees with some parts of either side. And liberals are pro-capitalism, which is a centrist ideology. Where was I going to conservatives? Yeah, like we heard from Lauren earlier, saying she characterized the Libertarian Party as freaks obsessed with the free market. That's cool, very interesting. So you're not pro free market, Lauren? A conservative? What a surprise! Listen, like this thing about like these ideas of like morals and lessons. Conservative morals are immoral. Conservative morals are based on what John and Lauren have said. Equality for some, but not for others. John and Lauren have been very open in saying that, hey, conservatism is not about equal rights. John very blatantly said that equal rights is a left-wing idea. And I could not agree more. Conservatives are not concerned with equal rights. And if you're someone sitting in the audience who disagrees with what John and Lauren are saying, I hate to break it to you, but you might not be a conservative. You might just be a liberal. I'll remind everyone that liberal values are democracy, equality, egalitarianism, fraternity, justice, ideas that are antithetical to conservatism. So hey, you might have to do some introspection on your ideology. Reading the modern day, Twitter and other social media is essential to have your voice heard in any capacity. Getting banned from them is like being banned from holding public gatherings and demonstrations. They are private companies and have the right to ban anyone, yes, but they provide an essential service that is just as important as electricity and water in the modern era. Well, this is the thing. This is not the conversation that's being had. There's a conversation about some kind of breaking up the tech companies or some kind of nationalizing of the tech companies. Here's the thing, like it's a bit of like it's caught between a rock and a hard place. If they're nationalized, then they're not in the interest of private corporations, which is profit. But then if they're nationalized, then it becomes an issue of freedom of speech. If we leave them as they are, then there's the argument of the free market and that companies have the right to refuse service to the people they want, but then people want to say like, oh, that's freedom of speech, and you're right in the sense that like online spaces are the new public square, but they're they're profit motivated. This is the thing, but this is not the conversation that's been had. This is conservatives want to say, I've been silenced because I was banned from Twitter because I couldn't keep my racism quiet. But this is not the conversation that's being had. So there is a conversation about what you mean kangaroo steak, but that's not the one that's been had by fucking Lauren and John. Who is this spicy looking bloke? My friend, my name is Louis Vuitton. You can subscribe to me on YouTube. I do prepared content on YouTube as well. I stream on YouTube and Twitch. I've been off for a while because I've been sick, but hey, I'm back now. Follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter, join the Discord through the link down below, join the community, and hey, there's also a link to Streamlabs if you're feeling generous. If you've got a couple of extra bucks lying around, no pressure though, because I understand that we are all going through some financial hardship. But hey, if you enjoyed the stream, a follow would be all I'd ask for. Conservative value would be religiosity and the protection of religious lifestyle, insistence on the continuing validity of the Second Amendment, and the idea that the soul of the American nation lies in the vast lands commonly referred to as flyover countries nowadays, not in big cities like New York or San Francisco, let alone bureaucratic cesspools like DC. Yes and no. See, it's liberals that don't like the Second Amendment. Leftists love the Second Amendment. Mate, I'm about as far left as you can go, and I am 100% in support of the Second Amendment. I wanted Australia's laws changed to give gun rights back to the people, or if we're going to have gun restrictions, at least consult experts. At least consult experts on guns. So if we're going to have restrictions on guns, make them make sense. Don't just be like, we are arbitrarily banning this one, but not this one. All right? And conservatives, it's interesting that you say that conservative culture is like flyover countries, because 20 years ago, when Al Gore was running for president, Al Gore copped heaps of shit because he was from country America. See, the narrative has changed. These days, it's all about coastal elites with conservatives. But back then, 20 years ago, when Al Gore was running for president, it was like shitting on Democrats for being from the country. But you are right about religiosity. And as John and Lauren have made very clear throughout this debate, they are concerned about making religion into law. Which, hey, that's against the First Amendment. Big fan of the First Amendment. In the current political landscape, there isn't really a viable option for a centrist. I agree. Politics has been driven to greater and greater extremes to decide the population and promote divisions between the people to distract us from the actual issues. Look, I agree. Like, centrist is like the most cucked ideology. Sorry to use that term. On one side, you have people like John and Lauren who are advocating for greater government authority. On the other end, you have people advocating for greater individual liberty. Where's the center point between government authority and individual liberty? I'll wait. Biden... I'd call Biden probably a centrist, yeah. You're such a babe. Have you ever had a man? Thank you. He's like a better looking Vosh. Hey, I'll take that. It sucks they clearing your habitat for palm oil. Ha ha! You're an outlier. Every far left government disarmed its own people as fast as it could. Tolstoy, there's never been a far left government. The left has never taken government power. I mean, I personally don't see Biden as a centrist. To me, he is left. Ooh, kangaroo steak. There's nothing left about Biden. At the most, he is liberal. Remember, here's the center. Here's far left. Liberal is about here. Or here. Like, this is the spectrum of liberalism. If this is the spectrum of left, this is the spectrum of liberalism. In fact, like, not even. Like, liberalism goes over the center into right-wing territory. If this is the center, it probably goes to about here right and here left, alright? That's like the spectrum of liberalism. As a firearms owner in Australia, I can confirm the current laws are so backwards and nonsensical, it's unbelievable. Yeah, 100%. Like, maybe there needs to be some restriction on what kind of firearms you own. Like, perhaps the public should not be armed to the same degree as the military. But the laws in Australia regarding guns are so arbitrary. And as Kangaroo Steak says, nonsensical. If we're going to have restrictions, at least let them be consistent. And it's not politicians or lawyers who should be... Well, they should be the ones to ultimately make the decision, but they should be making that decision on the advice of experts in firearms. What, Australia's gun laws are the greatest thing John Howard ever did. I'm pretty glad to not get shot. Don't know about you. Not getting shot is good, which is why I am a huge advocate for gun safety. But my friend, as a libertarian, even if I personally do not want to own a gun, I must support my fellow citizens' right to own guns. Otherwise, I'm not a libertarian. And I'd be a hypocrite. I must be consistent in my ideology. As a libertarian, I absolutely advocate for the safe ownership of guns by private citizens. If you want guns in the country, then we must exemplify gun safety. Because, hey, gun safety is pretty cool. And I'm sure any Australian who advocates for firearm ownership would 100% agree that firearm safety is of the utmost importance. Not in the US, but worldwide, sure. I assume you're referring to what I said about there never been a left-wing government? No, there's never been a left-wing government globally. The further, like the most far left we've got is the Scandinavian countries at the moment, and they are social democrats. They're still in the territory of liberalism. In terms of the spectrum of the left, if this is the center and this is the far left, they're like here, like the furthest you can go and still be liberal. Anyway, we are getting down a bit of a rabbit hole. Let's get back to the crazy conservatives. What is next? Oh, okay. Haha. And on the theme of government authority,
And all she wants to talk about it, but the fact of the matter is, my husband ain't gonna win us an election. Votes are going to win us elections. I don't know why we're so focused on these issues that are driving people away from voting for things like conserving the First Amendment, conserving the Second Amendment. That's really what I would like to have the conversation.
because they're racist. Oh, sorry, that wasn't on screen for that, but whatever, you heard what they said. Because they're racist, because they're homophobic, because, as John said, equality is a left-wing ideal. They don't want equal rights for everyone. They're not interested in egalitarianism. They're more concerned with oppressing LGBT people, racial minorities, etc., than they are protecting the First Amendment. And we saw that. Again, I don't know how many times I need to say it, but this is the side of politics that wanted to send people to jail for a year for burning the American flag. Like it or not, burning a flag is an expression of freedom of speech. And that has been decided in a US court of law. If you don't like that, don't do it. There's a libertarian take. You don't like burning the flag, don't do it. But don't you dare come for anybody else's right to burn the flag. Because as a libertarian, I 100% support flag burning because it is an expression of free speech. In fact, I go so far as to say I'm probably a free speech absolutist. So when Carlin sits there wondering, why are you concerned with these wedge issues? Because egalitarianism is not in their agenda. They don't care. They're not interested. This is the nature of the fanatic. So as libertarian, you think Martin Bryant had the right to have firearms. Well, again, as I've said pretty clearly, I'm an advocate for gun safety. Martin Bryant most likely would not have had a gun in a society that valued gun safety. Like, I don't know what part of that's hard to understand. Gun safety involves responsible ownership. On everyone's behalf, on the gun ownership, on the gun distributors, on the government. It involves responsibility on every level. Scandinavian countries have very little firearm restrictions to the point that you can buy full auto rifles set. They have one of the lowest gun crime rates in the country because everyone is armed. That's how guns work. Everyone has them or no one does. It's the only way to make it fair. And look, if we're going to go to that point, then we have to exemplify gun safety. I am 100% in favor of, in fact, like, just make it free. That's the best interest. Make it free and required. If you want to own a gun, you need to attend required training. Like, you need a license to drive a car. There's, like, think how many months youth spend getting their L's, getting their P's, years even, more than months. They spend years getting a license to drive a car. Why can't we do that with guns? A strong focus on gun safety, gun responsibility, and learning how to respect the firearm. Basic principles. Don't act like a smartass. There's no such thing as an unloaded gun, etc. As a private citizen, Martin did have the right. However, as soon as he identifies having mental instability, illness, that should have instantly disqualified him from handling or owning firearms. Well, here's the thing. I don't think, like, in a ideal society, I don't think Martin would have even got to the point of owning a firearm. Like, if our system for supporting people with mental illness was better, then he wouldn't have, he would have been identified and had his issues addressed, but probably wouldn't have owned a firearm. Because, yeah, there's going to be some restrictions on who can own firearms. Because, again, I'm going to keep on harping on this. Gun safety is the #1 priority. If it's been decided that we cannot reasonably be assured that you will be a safe gun owner, I'm sorry. But, yeah. that right will be taken from you. If we want to have guns, which I'm 100% in favor for, because hey, libertarian, we must focus on gun safety. But he was only deemed mentally unstable after the fact, hence the problem of giving everyone guns. Well, that's an issue. That's not an issue of guns. That's an issue of mental health. I agree. Having to register your firearms is good, same as having to do a safety course to own a gun is important as well. However, the classification of different firearms needs to be reviewed desperately as there are so many loopholes and nonsensical restrictions. Yeah, exactly. They're not. They are not consulting the experts. Like, they just look at Port Arthur and like, okay, what guns did he use? Okay, we'll ban those. They're not actually looking at the experts on firearms who, are the ones that should be consulted and been and saying like, here's what is reasonable for the public to own, here's not. They're just arbitrarily going, that one. This is the problem with Australia's gun laws. You can't implement safe ownership when you can't implement effective mental health problems. Agreed. But let's do both. So I still haven't, like, I've touched on Carlin's points, but I haven't actually deconstructed them. But I'm leading up to that, alright? Okay, let's see. Alright, I want to hear Blair White say some things. We haven't heard a whole lot from her.
Here's the thing. There is...
Go ahead, Blair, sorry.
Okay, there is... And I think this maybe is something that you might not be aware of, or people who are not, closer to the LGBT community, knowing the inner workings, that there's actually a huge divide from people who...
It doesn't matter. It's a package deal. It all comes together.
I disagree. I think that there's a huge divide within the community as from people who do support things like Drag Queen Story Hour, one of the things I've been very vocal against children transitioning. So I don't think it's a monolith. I don't think any group is a monolith. The same way that the right wing is not a monolith of just people who believe, in a biblical, definition of conservatism and people who don't. And I think that there's a really big missed opportunity for the right in the sense that I think LGBT people are actually the best warriors against gender ideology. And, and seeing children being read to by half-naked drag queens and children going under hormone therapy at 12. I think that people who are from that community coming and speaking out against it do a lot better of a job at trying to stop it than people who are on the outside. Because at the end of the day, Lauren, you could make it part of your platform to be against those things, and even Carlin, you guys could talk about it, but it's simply the way it works. It's never going to be heard as loud as someone like myself or a gay person coming out of the community. And so I think that when you have, I would venture to say, the majority of LGBT people who disagree with those things, when they feel like they can't.
I find that really interesting. The majority of LGBT people disagree with those things. Very interesting generalization, Blair. As she said, venture a guess. Well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. What is going on? Still talking about guns. It's been 36 years since Port Arthur with 0 massacres with a firearm. In the 5 years leading up to Port Arthur, there was 8. So does that mean you don't believe that you should be allowed to defend yourself? And I can assure you, if someone breaks into my home and threatens my family, they're going to get acquainted with the business end of my 12 gauge very quickly. Massacre being greater than 4 victims. No, I believe you can defend yourself with firearms. Self-defense as an excuse to buy assault weapons is nonsensical. Well, again, have you ever had a man... This is why firearms need, firearm ownership needs to be sensical. The firearms that a individual can own need to be the advice of firearm experts, not the government. I'm not saying there shouldn't be legislation and registration at all. I agree it was effective at stopping them. It's more a case that they used a sledgehammer of legislation to fix a problem that was a thumbtack. A legislation that needs to be reviewed and also be made national and not based on a state-by-state basis. Yeah, because gun ownership is very arbitrary. It's not it's the same in America. When they talk about banning assault weapons, it's very easy to turn a pistol into an assault rifle. It can be done. Alright. Last thing from this video, we will hear... I just want to hear Lauren's closing statement. The same old right wing.
LGBTQ community has certainly, in conclusion, the LGBTQ community has no platform, should have no influence on the party that was based on traditional marriage. Opposing gay marriage still is our platform. That hasn't changed, but we are going to have to vote on it again soon. You know, are we going to be the party moving forward? Are we going to be the party that compromises on our values that got us this far? Or are we going to stand firm on issues like family, restoring the nuclear family, getting dads back into the home, re-legalizing conversion therapy, which they have stripped parental rights, where children now can't even go to get therapy if they choose to change their mind while struggling with gender dysphoria? You know, the only path forward with this LGBTQ agenda is stripping parents of their rights. Parents are being villainized for not wanting to transition their children. They're having their children taken away from them. You know, so it is not a lifestyle that should be included in the Republican Party, and it's not something we need either. Electorally, it hurts us.
Okay.
All right. Well, there you have it. Same old right wing, same old conservatism. I wonder if I've got it. Do I have it? Let me see. There's a fantastic meme by... Here it is, I've got it. Okay. Fantastic meme by Pink Wug. You can find them on Twitter. They're great. We shouldn't normalize an illness. It's a social contagion. It's a lifestyle. Exclusion by feminists. Locker room panic. Weaponized suicide statistics. The gay, trans agenda. Wait, it's all recycled bigotry? Always has been. And that truly is conservatism. You can go back, like as far back as you want to go, alright? Conservatives now are standing against trans rights. Before that, they stood against gay and bi rights. Before that, they stood against racial equality. And before that, they stood against gender equality. And before that, they stood against abolition. And before that, they stood for loyalty to the British Crown, and so on and so forth for the entirety of human history. When Lauren wants to argue what are they conserving, they are conserving authoritarianism, authority, hierarchy. Conservatives, ever since the Enlightenment, ever since the emergence of liberalism and the emergence of liberal values, conservatives have always been against the values of the Enlightenment, the values of liberalism, democracy, equality, fraternity, justice, egalitarianism. Conservatives are desperate to return to that time before the Enlightenment. Where do you think fascism came from? Fascism emerged as an ideology in response to liberalism from people like Lauren, who saw the rise of liberalism and thought, ugh, gross. Equal rights? No thanks. And this is the mindset of the fanatic. So we've gone through the grifter. Now we've looked at the fanatic. People like Lauren and John Doyle. They are very openly anti-egalitarian. Very openly anti-equal rights. This is the fanatic. The fanatic is very blatantly against egalitarianism. And this to me speaks closer to the heart of conservatism than whatever damage control Carlin and Blair will put out there. That's conservatives. That is right-wing ideology. And if you don't agree with that, perhaps you're not a conservative. If you think everyone should have equal rights, sorry, you might just be a liberal. Before I jump back into this gun debate that's going on in the chat, I've touched on Carlin throughout that entire video, but I want to unpack her position now. Carlin is the conservative mindset that I would call the lost soul, the wayward one. Carlin, as we saw in the video, Carlin stands for the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, freedom of speech, but she's very adamant in that she won't support a political party who does not support equal rights. As she said, she won't support a party that treats LGBT people as subhuman. She's right when she says that she's a liberal. She is a liberal, she supports liberal values. However, she's got it in her head that conservatives want to conserve the First Amendment. And I'm sorry, but they don't. I don't know how many times I need to say it. It was Donald Trump that wanted to send people to jail for a year for burning the American flag, the expression of freedom of speech. It was Donald Trump that wanted to change the law to make the media harder, to make it harder for the media to criticize him. It was Donald Trump that wanted to change the laws around protesting in response to the BLM protests. The right are not interested in conserving. They are interested in regressing. And I wish I had a following big enough so that I could talk to Carlin. I wish that I could talk to her and show her it's not the right that is interested in conserving freedom of speech. Being banned from Twitter is not an infringement on your freedom of speech. It's the left that wants to protect freedom of speech. So hey, you can support that out, but you can support me by subscribing to me on Twitter, subscribing me on YouTube, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter, join the Discord. Hey, get me big enough so that I can have a conversation with Carla and explain to her, mate, it's not the right that are interested in conserving free speech. Not at all. And we heard from John and Lauren just how uninterested in equal rights they are.